Welcome back to Read the Room. I am joined by Miss Natalie Martin again today, and I'm very excited about having you here to do what we're going to do, which is answer some questions. But before we get into that, let's get into your back. Is it better than it was the other day? Because Natalie and I hike together a few times each week, and she has been on the struggle bus this week, but it hasn't kept you from trying, kept you from trying to climb.
Yeah, so I really still can't pinpoint what happened. I wasn't feeling good Tuesday. Oh, this is a good lesson.
Let's go.
Even though you said it doesn't have to be a lesson.
No,
but sometimes things happen and I really want to look into like why and what's my part and how can I do something differently if the outcome isn't what I like. So my back is hurt and I'm on a hike. And so
you felt like it was counterintuitive maybe?
Yeah. And I knew getting to the hike that, my back was a little upset and then I continued to do it. But the thing
I love that my back was upset.
My back was upset at me. And the thing is I was sick. I really was sick Sunday and Monday. And I should have listened to my body and been like, it's okay to rest.
And instead you sneezed or looked the wrong way and then just
I went on a hike and was like, should not have done that. And so I'm better. Went to the chiropractor, got a little adjustment, and I've stretched.
Okay, wait. Funny. So the other day we meet at the same place.
When I hurt my back, yeah.
Yeah, that same very day. And she gets out of her car and she's limping a little bit. And so we talked about stretching because where she was hurting her back, I have hurt my back there as well. And I'm like, no, it's really about like stretching out your hips. And so anyway, there's no one in the parking lot at the time. I'm like, let's go find a place for you to lay down and I'll like stretch you out. And sure enough, we are in the middle of a stretch. And if you're just...
But also, we're not on the grass. We're not in like a meadow area. We are on like hard concrete sidewalk by the bathroom in the middle of the parking lot.
Yeah.
So
as one does, as we needed to.
I had to.
And it was so great because I'm trying to get Natalie to focus because we all know that your breathing's important. And as you're actually trying to stretch out, you don't want to hurt something. And so we hear a car pulling up and immediately I'm like, Natalie's about to lose it because she's going to think this person is saying something that looks so crazy.
But also, Cav is literally hovering over me on top. My knee is literally across my body. That hip
She's
flexor.
Wearing it across her shoulder.
Yeah. And I'm in shorts and this sports bra, and he's just on top of me stretching. He's like, breathe in. Nope, hold your breath. Okay, and I'm like, dying because it's not even that was funny, but I look up and see him, and the second I look up I think this car's visual has got to be better than mine.
Oh,
and
gold.
I just couldn't.
I don't like that you said that. You didn't have a horrible visual. Okay,
no, that's because they got me. I could only see you. They got to see me.
That's
so
true.
Their visual
I do really
was...
wish we could have seen a snapshot from them pulling up, or just the conversation, the internal monologue. However, because
it could have been it could have been so many different things. Oh well, LA. Look at the trainer, and this guy's trying to get in there. You know, anything. So.
Oh boy. Well, I think that's a great place for us to just kind of jump in.
But I want to hike tomorrow. But keep going.
Yeah, but what time? Because I'm not trying to get up early Saturday.
You will. Go ahead. By accident, not because of me.
No, it's every weekend we have a conversation about like, okay, look, today I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to do a really good thing. I'm going to sleep in on a Saturday. 6:30 in the morning, I'm texting Natalie like, hey, what about a hike?
Yeah. We're like, oh, you want a quick 5 miles? Okay.
Yeah, let's go. But we do process a lot. We talk through a bunch of things on our hikes. I do think that for both of us, that's kind of a cool time. It's like we get to connect. We get to ask each other questions of things that we're working through, whether it be business, whether it be life stuff, relational stuff. And what we do on this show is talk through those relational dynamics. And I just decided, because I think that we can have all the conversations we want to, but unless people are actually able to plug in what we're talking about into their lives, then what's the point of any of it? And so I wanted to ask people, and I did on Instagram. I just got on and was like, hey, where do you need to have a conversation, or what kind of questions are you dealing with right now? Because I think that once a month, I want to do a questions episode like this. And it might be that you're across from me. If you want to come back every time, I'd love that, Natalie.
I would love that.
Yeah. So then I think that we might do a kind of regular segment with that. But we got a bunch of questions. So I thought, let's sit down. If you haven't listened to Natalie's episodes with me, because you're a three-peater now.
This is my third.
Well, yeah, I think we recorded one and then spliced it into two. So this is technically, technically four. I know I got to get you a 4-timers coat like they do on SNL for the 5-timers club. But, you know, Natalie is a therapist. And so I want to have a professional opinion in here as well. She's one of my best friends. But I think that kind of the Venn diagram of us knowing each other so well, her being a professional in this space, me trying to contribute in this conversation too, I feel like we can get somewhere together.
Yes.
Okay, so Natalie has in front of her questions as well. I have some, and we're just going to kind of hop back and forth. But I do think this first one is a good one. So I'm sorry that I don't have names attached to these questions. I think that everybody would prefer to have probably a little anonymity with some of these. But first up, processing versus gossip. What's the difference, and what are the real consequences of gossip? I'll let you bat off.
Okay. So processing versus gossip is something that I really try to think about in conversation, because there's times where I'm like, okay, I have to say this. This is just what's happening, rather than like, hey, I need to vent. Because I think the gossip is venting. And I think this circles back. I think we've talked about this before. Like, venting is usually not full of wisdom. It's not full of things you want help with. It's literally just a rant. Like, you're dumping. It's not constructive. And then you're just dumping. And that's gossip. You're dumping a story. You're dumping this. And it's like, that's a burden for somebody else. So in conversation and relationship, you don't want to be the person who's dumping and gossiping and always coming with that negative approach, right? Where it's like, hey, I had something happen yesterday. Can we talk about it? I need help how to like figure out the next steps. A friend did this. I need help. How could I have this conversation? So you can talk about what was happened and if you were hurt and process with a friend, but the two can be very different and you can still get the point across.
Yeah.
That's a hard one though.
It is. And I'd say to the second part of it, the real consequences of it. I think that if you have friendships where gossip is a center point for how y'all communicate,
right,
I think it elicits a lot of distrust in that community.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, there's an adage that we all know. If they're talking with you about someone, they're going to talk to someone else about you.
Right.
Like, it's just kind of almost scientific. And it's something that I'm
not a scientist, but
yeah, I'm not either. But it really is so verifiable. So then as you see the kind of consequences come into fruition in your life, it's that people don't feel like they can trust you with as much information. People don't want you at the safest points in their life or the most intimate or vulnerable places. I'd also say that when you're processing, it is constructive, and processing is an intentional recounting of what's actually going on and trying to gain some understanding with it. And processing is normally not done in a group. That's more of like, to me, I think a one-on-one direct, like, help me understand A, B, C, and D all happened, and I am trying to figure out how I feel about them. These things communicate this to me.
Right.
How does that hit you? Am I not seeing something clearly? That's a much more constructive conversation than you'll never guess what so-and-so just said to me. And they have no idea. Or can you believe the nerve of... I
do love a good story though.
Yeah, well, and I do love a
fine line.
Yeah, especially one of like the nerve.
Yes,
Those stories.
yes.
Those stories are always a real win for me. But yeah, gossip is something that is just not healthy, and it doesn't feel healthy. It doesn't sound healthy.
Right.
You can tell, you can feel it in a room if you've walked in and people are just finishing gossip. It feels icky in the atmosphere. So I'd say that those consequences can show up all over. But I think we handled that one, didn't we? Okay, let's move on.
Okay. Do you have notes?
No? Why?
Just wondering.
Should I?
Almost sounds like you did because you're very eloquent.
No, I mean, look.
Here's the truth, guys. Just stay tuned. Go ahead.
I genuinely think about these things often, so it's not necessarily something I have to have a bunch of notes on, you know? Okay, so I love this question. How do you handle, and now especially liked, the made-up acronym of EGRs, extra grace required? And I think to translate that, because this is definitely someone who grew up in a similar environment to us, but I'm like, that's someone who's just difficult to like, I would say, right? So then the question, how do you deal with, obviously there are just a ton of different ways of dealing. Are you dealing with this person in passing? Is this someone who is in your life and you can't get away? Is this an in-law? Is this a family member? There are a bunch of different extra grace requirements that come into our life. I would say the best way to move through difficult personalities is just to be firmly planted in yourself and the kind of personality you operate in, the kind of communication that you want to give off, the kinds of questions you want to ask, the kinds of things that you want to enjoy, that you reach out from that place and you try to engage in that place. And then you are actively engaged with also dumping from your mind the things that are so irritating, really difficult about that person for you to be able to engage in that holistic, healthy way. Because, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, when you show up, like we talked before Christmas, you show up at a family function and you're like, oh boy, there's going to be this person.
Right.
Or I'm going to have this conversation. And what you said then, which I thought was so great, and what I'd like to remind people with is like, no, if you actually can tell yourself even beforehand, oh, I'm about to encounter this. I'm about to have this moment that could be very frustrating. And then you do the follow through, which is, and it's okay.
Right.
And I'm going to respond this way. I am going to be this way. You can handle any kind of difficult.
Right.
But it does require some intentionality, and I think understanding of boundaries and of what you want to impart.
That's what I was going to say, is the boundaries are very important with people like that.
Yeah.
Just because they're difficult doesn't mean you have to be extra nice and extra all this. It's you can still be yourself and maintain a boundary. And I think you do a really good job.
Sometimes.
No, I do, but not that you have so many EGRs in your life, but you adjust very well. So I agree with everything you just said.
So yeah, the bottom line though is just it requires intentionality and actually
and knowing yourself, I think,
Yeah.
and your limits. Just like, again, knowing, hey, I have to talk to myself before I go into this room. Okay, cool. I know what to expect. Like, there's no surprises, right?
Right.
We know this person is this, and this. Okay. They can't shock me. They can't irritate me because I already know. So
yeah,
it's
I'm not
up
going to
to
get
you.
thrown off.
Yeah, it's up to you to kind of be like, oh, that's Bobby being Bobby.
Oh, Bobby.
Oh, Bobby.
You know Bobby B being Bobby.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, moving on. Now, I have such strong feelings about this one, but I want you to answer this. Is it important to have various ages and backgrounds represented in your inner circle? And I put the emphasis on inner. But that is the question.
Important.
Yeah. Okay, so
I mean, I guess it's kind of also, how do you define important? Is it something that is going to benefit you? Are you doing it because you have to check a box? Is it, trying to get outside of the circle, be a little uncomfortable, learn somebody new? Are you opposed to that? There's a lot of background questions I would have about that. But yeah, I think it's important.
yeah.
Having people that come from different walks of life, grew up a little bit differently, but also grew up the same. I think it strengthens people. I think a lot of people who stay in an inner circle that are very similar are very singular minded. They know one thing. Can't talk about, oh, I knew someone from Guatemala and their parents were this way and I loved this and had like good connections to things. It's about connecting to other, in my thought process of connecting to other. And that makes you multifaceted. I think it makes you more well-rounded. It makes you more connecting and open to people. I think that is important.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it is important.
Yeah, and I think what you said about defining importance, and obviously everything's contextual. So not everyone is afforded the ability to meet people in all different age ranges and all different backgrounds. What I always say is it's just important to have different perspectives around you and to not be surrounded by same.
Right. And if you are surrounded by same, it's like, why?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like, if you are trying to go, it's like, well, what am I missing? What am I not doing? How am I feeling so safe? Is there something a blind spot? Is there some unconscious thing going on that I'm just picking the same person over and over and over again? Do I want to learn about something new? But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it is important. For me, it's important.
Yeah, I fully agree with you.
So yeah, it's just about getting to know other. Do not be single-minded.
No, please don't. Be curious.
Be curious. Exactly.
Okay, so...
Oh, the age thing. I don't think the age thing is necessarily that important.
I don't...
In your inner circle.
I agree.
Yeah, if you have a mentor or someone that you can call and talk to, then yes, but they don't have to be like inner. That's different than inner circle. I think inner circle is someone you talk to every day, you can joke with you, but it is good to have someone who's older who mentors you or you can kind of connect with. But that person can also be the same age.
Yeah, can be. Nuance.
Yeah.
And difference. Yeah. No, it's good.
Ooh, here's a good one.
Okay.
That you're going to like and be able to speak to here. How do you address those who speak to you like a child because they've known you forever?
Well,
it is harder when you're asked the question, isn't it? I don't see there's any notes here.
Yeah, no. So
anyways,
I think that, again, it starts with you deciding who you are and understanding what you bring as a whole self, as your whole person. When you are confident in knowing who you are, it's not about educating people of, you don't talk to me that way anymore. It's just simply being. You can't demand respect. You really only can command it. And so it's not about pounding your fist on the table and being like, I'm not a kid anymore. Because that kind of reinforces the very thing you're trying to get out of.
Right.
If you're mature, you don't need to raise a flag that says, here's my maturity. Everybody bow down to it, see it, acknowledge it. It just is. And then people will adjust. It's no different than defining or adding a boundary in. It is sometimes a little bit off kilter or sometimes a little bit arresting or difficult to navigate because, of course, you want to fight for that maturing self or that confident version of you that's like, no, I'm stepping into this. I'm doing all of these things. You want to be seen. You want all of that validated. Those are normal human things, but you actually don't get that validation by begging for it or by saying that you deserve it now. You have to just carry it and walk with it. People will change the way they speak to you when they see that you've actually changed. And I know that that sounds not almost defeating, but discouraging. It could be, it's like, oh, wait, I just have to wait for them to notice. And it's like, yeah, because the whole point is that you're supposed to be moving independently and living and growing. And then they see that. Like, you're not bringing your maturing at every point up in front of their face going, hey, can you put a gold star on this? And now can you call me doctor? Now can you call me mister? You know, all of those accreditation things, wonderful, but also come when you're not actually seeking that thing.
Right. I agree.
So I don't know if I answered that question well.
Yeah, and I would also challenge from, therapeutic standpoint, not your therapist. But it's also like, how come this person is talking to you like a child still when you're not? What is it that you're doing that's reinforcing them talking to you like a child? Like you're saying, is there some way you can grow? Are you not setting boundaries? Are you not where you are at in life that, you want to be or need to be? So it's things that you can also change inwardly. So I would do some like introspection to be like, oh, why is that happening? What can I do differently? How am I showing up? What's my part in them treating me like a child or talking to me like a child?
Yeah.
And how can I adjust to even that out?
Yeah, and having both of those reflections almost of, okay, what am I doing to contribute to this? And then what am I doing to actually, for myself, be in a different seat than I feel like people perceive me in?
Right.
It's both.
Yeah.
Yes and, right? Okay, so how do you network, Natalie, if you're from a small town? And this person's saying small town USA, but I'm like, small towns, period. It is difficult to kind of think of forward movement if you don't necessarily see a roadmap there. And if you feel like your ability to meet people is limited, what would you say?
I guess it just depends on who you're trying to network with. What's the industry are you in? But when I was networking, starting out, I did a lot of cold calling. I would like Google what I was looking for, a place here and there, and you call and say, hi, this is Natalie. I work for blah, blah, blah. I'd love to meet you. Come check this place out. Can we connect? So I had to do a lot of cold calling.
Yeah. But I think what you said about even like finding out your place of connection or what you're actually wanting to grow in or the type of people that you're actually wanting.
Oh, we're talking about that networking. Okay, I was thinking like within the means of someone's industry.
No, but that too. I'm like, it's all the same. I'm like, if you're networking for work purposes or relational purposes, whatever it is, I would say that it's finding an alignment between like, oh, these are actually the things I enjoy, or this is actually where I'm wanting to put my time, my energy. These are the qualities of people I'm really interested in actually having around me. I think to your point of cold calling and making yourself a little bit uncomfortable to put yourself in new environments is a great way to kind of throw yourself in. And then too, that's just a relational win of like, you're going to get so comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Right. And then you just do it. And then you're like, oh wait, people like me? Oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Yeah. And that's one of those like first even building blocks. If you're wanting to network for business purposes or in growing your career, get comfortable with being uncomfortable and with cold calling and with getting told no and with people being like, no, you can't sit with us. And you being like, that's okay. I'm going to ask tomorrow too.
Right.
There's a level of intentionality there, but wherever you are, if there are people to be found, there's community to be found.
Yeah.
And maybe not as myopic as maybe larger cities can be, but you can absolutely find people to help grow you toward the end goal you're actually wanting to see.
Also meetups. I know a lot of clients, I don't know where this person's from, a small town, there's probably not meetups, but there are meetups. People hike, they have like book clubs, they have game clubs, they have
pickleball club. Like
there's so many things.
Which someone invite me to your pickleball club, please.
I've
I'm
invited you 100 times and you won't go.
That's Natalie.
Kevin, how many times have I talked about pickleball? You played with me once.
Yeah, you haven't asked again because I beat you so many times.
You can't ask. I asked the first time and then you asked me.
Listen, y'all, I beat Natalie. How many games did I beat you? It was something like,
not.
Are you? Wow.
No, but are you being serious?
Yeah, I beat you and Sarah.
Okay, that's more like it wasn't just like you played.
You're right. It's even worse because y'all had two.
No.
Anyway, Natalie and I are great teammates and competitors. So if anybody's looking to fill a couple spots, we really can show up with both.
I also don't mind reffing, so I can.
Well, you kind of live in a ref's role, don't you?
Yeah, I can be anything. I can bring the snacks. Love snacks. Thought we were having some today. Okay, I have a question for you.
Let's hear it.
Okay. What do you do when your hubby's family continuously gaslights him? That's a hard one.
It is a hard one. And obviously, I feel like there are a lot of like personality things that would be helpful to know and relational dynamics that would help me have a little bit of a clearer way to answer. But what I would say is that if you have a partner who is being gaslit by their family, it's not for you to confront the family. That's on the partner to deal with, okay? So first and foremost, your husband needs to understand that he's being gaslit, and that has to come from him of like, hey, this is my experience. Now, yes, you can be a mirror and reflect back to him like, hey, does it feel like your parents are telling you the sky isn't blue? Because that's what it feels like to me. And if it's a genuine unhealthy behavior you've noticed, then I would say you hold the anchoring seat for your spouse to remind them of truth so that when they are in gaslighting situations, and not to be like splainy about all of this, but I'm like gaslighting to basically say, no, what you've said is true is not true, or what you've experienced, you did not experience. And that can be behavior that makes people legitimately lose their mind.
Right.
And so I think that you have to hold the truth base, which is that you are constantly reminding your husband of what's actually true about him, so that when he is in gaslighting situations, he has that reserve of understanding and knowing who he is that is then validated by the person he's chosen to walk through life with. And then he can, in context of your health and that relationship, begin to see and deal with the unhealth in his family himself.
I love that.
I don't know if that's
great. That's a great answer. I have nothing to add, counselor.
I'm sorry.
I liked it. No, I think that's great. I really do.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this one because
we are moving and grooving. I feel like we're on a hike.
Natalie's always getting on to me for how fast I'm going up.
He moves and grooves. I could not move and groove on Tuesday.
No,
I was so mad.
You could barely move.
I was so
much
mad.
less groove.
I did 2 miles, though.
Yeah, you did. I don't know that we were keeping track necessarily, but I should have known you were. Natalie likes to remind me, we do the same hike multiple times a week. And every time, there's different versions of it.
We sound so LA too, just by the way. Oh, our hikes.
Okay, anyway, moving on.
We are so fit.
We are so fit. Okay, how is a girl supposed to know when a guy is just being kind / charming, or if he's into you?
I already saw it. I was going to ask you, and I was like, if I knew, I don't think I would be here at all.
Period.
Yeah. I would definitely not be here on a Friday afternoon.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Oh, you're saying
I'm
that?
kidding.
No, I know. Yeah,
you should have made up some questions. We could make one up. I love these.
Well, I mean, we've got more. Okay, we've got a question from the audience. Court, let's hear it. Guys, this
Come
is a really...
on down. You have...
Yeah. Ba-da-ba-da-da-da. Ba-da-ba-da. I'm trying to think of the Price is Right music, and I can't.
I couldn't either.
All right. Sneak on in. You want a piece of popcorn?
I do.
Okay, my question is, when you've had a falling out with a friend, how do you know when it's just not worth it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a hard question. There are always lots of questions to be asked around.
Yeah, but she ran away real quick. You're not down with follow-up questions? Okay, so I feel like I know a little bit of this situation, so ask your questions.
I would first ask, how long has the friendship been? That's my first question.
Yeah. Okay, let's say less than a decade, and I don't want to get too specific, but a significant years.
Okay. I would try to reconcile the relationship based on just, again, I'd have more questions though, because I want to know what happened. What was the falling out? Was it mutual? Was it a situation? Was it disagreement?
Over time, we drifted apart. I finally said something like, love you. Let me know if it's something I did or if we just naturally got here, and I'm sorry either way. Response was very shocking, to which we just disagree on why the friendship ended, whose fault it was. So, like, do I try to go fix that and still just not be friends, or just leave it?
Because I think to this point, sometimes when moments or breakdowns like this happen, they can reveal major underlying character traits that are not ones that you want to contend with.
Yeah,
in yourself or the other person?
And the other.
Her response made me really take inventory of our friendship over the last few years and made me realize we really disagree on that opinion, on your storyline of what happened. And
do you disagree on other things or just the storyline?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, it's like, is the disagreement based on who's right and who's wrong? Or is it like, hey, we don't see eye to eye in life. We're not on the same path. We've grown. Like, is it more than just who's wrong or right?
I just feel like if we do fix this, probably in a year or two, we'll have to fix it again. Like, it is, like he was saying, maybe a character thing that I probably just didn't want to accept before or just tiptoed around before.
And so now you're seeing it and it's like, okay. Yeah, so I don't think I would salvage that.
Yeah, I'm fully with Natalie. And I think that to answer the first part of your question of like...
Well, you tried to. Let's actually, you did try to.
You did try to.
So it's like to do it again?
You did try to, and you've already reached out and owned up to whatever you could, like your part in it. But the response revealed like a different thing to me. It revealed the fact that like y'all actually are in it for different things. And so to answer, I think the first part of your question was like, how do you know if it's bad or if it's worth going back and doing the work? It's like, no, that's actually you stewarding the energy you're putting out and like what you're actually investing in people and safeguarding it because you've actually seen now something that could come up and be more detrimental down the road.
Okay, so then this leads me to my next follow-up. If I've had more than one relationship fall out, I would say in the last year or two, like this is probably the second or third friend I've lost in the last year and a half that I'm starting to now question. Like the first friend, I was like, okay, that probably just needed to end. Second friend, okay, yeah, that just needed to end. Now it's happened again. I'm like, wait, is it me? Like, am I the problem?
Well, that's when Kevin just said you have to look at the characters. And I was like, oh, for yourself, right? And so
Right.
that's the introspection that I would say, needs to take place for sure. Not that it's all you, but like, I remember me and Cav got in a fight one time. That could have been like friendship ending. And I was just like, well, you're you and me and I'm me and it just doesn't work. And it's like, you get to just say that to people. Like, if I like,
You did.
I did. And I thought I could. I mean, this was like 10 years ago, right? But it's like, no, I had to like see his side. I had to grow. I had to be like, oh, this is somebody worth investing in and like continuing. And I can't just be me and just tell the whole world I'm just me, like deal with it. I had to be like, oh, shoot, he has a valid point. I have to fix these things. And not even fix, but like I get to change. I get to like see it from someone else's. I can't just live life with friends who accept me for being me without being like, hey, you got something in your eye. I do too. Let's get it out. And that's the beauty of the intimacy. But maybe the relationships aren't as intimate as you thought, or there's not room for criticism or correction or like.
That's what I feel like it's been with, I would say the last 3 friendships I've lost, maybe 2, because I can't remember who the third one was with, so it must not have been that big of a deal. But in the last 2 friendships.
And that might be an issue too if you have all these like random.
Well, it's like moving to a new city.
Yeah.
You try to find your people quick,
Yeah.
and I think I just found who I thought were my people, and the longevity wasn't there. Like, I have had no falling out with any of my friends from Texas.
Okay.
Not a single one.
So that's like, again, that says a lot too.
So, and thinking about these relationships, there was attempt in both of them to like truly fix it. And then one of them, there was no lack of effort. And then in this one, it was just like our perception of what needed to be fixed were 2 totally different things. The easier route is for sure, like, I'm not the problem. It's not me.
Right. That's the easy route.
Yeah, but you can still
But
make...
is it me?
Well, yeah, of course, there's 2 people in the it's not always one person's fault. There is fault across the board, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but...
Not 100% or 50-50, but...
But you can still see like your own part and like your own contribution to it and then make the right decision of like, no, actually, it's okay that this has ended. Like,
Yes.
it doesn't negate the decision or the fact that you're like, I actually
Right.
am not wanting to invest in this. But take it as a moment of like, okay, are there through lines in any of these relationships of like, am I hearing the same things or am I running into the exact same issue? I think that it could be a combo of just it being a crazy couple of years. Also, yes, you moving to California and then that whole transition of meeting people and developing your group here. When you move to a new city and you make friends, most of the time, those aren't the people who you end up running with. It's a transitional kind of season. So to me, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You would have even a couple of those relationships. When I moved here, I'm sure that there were like a few people that I would hang out with a little bit and then that's fallen off. But it's like, I also am not bearing the weight of like, I need to go and make sure that every single one of those relationships that I spent time with right when I moved here is okay and great. It's like, no, it's okay. We can move on.
Everybody's forever too. I think people come into your life for seasons and like those people might have been there when you needed them the most. And then you guys grow and move past it. And that's another thing too, where I think we put so much emphasis on like, we have to stay friends with everybody forever. And it's like, no, like people change, people grow, people have kids, they move. And so things change. It doesn't have to be bad, right? It can be like, okay, our relationship has changed. I talk to him once a month now and that's fine, right? There doesn't have to be falling outs. But I do hear what you're saying when it's like you've tried and it's like, okay.
I also think that growth sometimes looks like outgrowing relationships and you not even being aware of that. even when there are relationships where maybe they're one-sided or that you've only functioned in one seat in that relationship, and then just life makes you actually have to take a different seat, and then you realize the relationship was hinged and contingent on you being in that specific seat.
Yeah.
Those are really easy, I think, mentally to go, oh, okay, that's what that was. This is a genuine relationship that isn't sustainable for me because there's no room for me to actually be there. And yeah, I feel like I'm a little harsher on that, but I'm like, nope, that's fine. Like I
am too, but and not even harsh, but it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But that's maybe comes with age and like experience, and it's like, okay, I've had best friends I've known since like literally kindergarten, and we don't talk all the time, but there's no love lost, right? Nothing happened. Sometimes I do think back to all these people I've known, and now I don't, but I still know them, but we're still on good terms. And like if I called, so there is a way to like keep open relationships without it having to be so. But
that's
inner
what I was
circle,
gonna say too. Yeah,
you should protect your inner circle, but people do come into your life. So I think the more you like kind of let people in and out and flow through, it's like not as like damning, if you will.
Yeah, very true.
Well, thank you for your time.
Also, one more thing, but you should look at the through line though, like you said, because you also want to like collect data on like what hasn't worked, what do I need to do differently into these next friendships. When I do meet a friend, what am I looking for, and then define it from that. These are my friends for a couple years.
Yeah, or my friends in this part of my life. That's great too.
Like my friends with kids, or my friends from church, or my friends I get drunk with.
Thank you for the vulnerable question, Courtney, though. I like that. I like that a lot.
Come back anytime.
Yeah, there's always a seat for you.
Exactly.
Nat's chair. Okay, well, let's get into a couple more. You down?
Yeah, is there another list?
No.
I don't think I have all of them.
Yes, you do. You just haven't read them all.
Oh, okay.
Nat likes to make snap judgments.
Let me see.
Okay, let me ask you. Any advice on how to manage when an adult daughter so this is very specific. Any advice on how to manage when an adult daughter refuses to meet my boyfriend of 6 months, and this woman is 52? I don't mean to laugh, but these dynamics do make me laugh because, of course, it's awkward. It's so awkward. As a parent, I cannot imagine bringing a new love interest and then introducing them to my daughter. And then as an adult, I don't envy you. So I'll say that off the front end. I am sorry about that. I do have more questions.
I have a few.
Yeah. I'm like, is your boyfriend a jerk that you don't realize is a jerk because he's nice to you and your daughter just sees through him? Is your boyfriend someone who was trying to go too quickly and your daughter has checks about that? Has she communicated concerns? Are her reservations founded in anything other than just her being a daughter who doesn't want to see her mom with someone else?
Right.
And if any of the answers to those questions are, well, yeah, there's cause for some concern or whatever, then I would say you leave an open door and an open invitation, but you release any pressure that you have been applying and you make it no pressure to be around. Hey, boyfriend and I are going to go and do dinner this Friday at this place I know you like. I would love for you to come, but obviously understand however you want to phrase that. You create opportunities where maybe it's something she enjoys, maybe it's a common place where she feels safe, and maybe it's contextualized by a good memory y'all have that you're wanting to possibly bring this person into. I think that some intentionality and even expressing how important it is to you without demanding it.
Right.
And by saying, hey, I understand you're an adult and I'm never going to force you to have anybody in your life that you don't choose to have in your life yourself. But can I tell you why I especially like this guy and why I want you to know him? Or can I tell you how he actually contributes to my life? And then when you're ready, I would love for you to come around. Or if you're ever ready, I think that it's about an open invitation. But what do you think?
I think you said it all, really. I think... Really, you did. You made the last point you had made was what I was going to say, where it's like you just leave an open invitation and don't force. Like there's a reason why, and have you asked the reason why? Have you actually took the time to explore that with her, apologize for past mistakes? It sounds like she's hurt. You don't usually refuse to do something unless you have had a prior experience with it that was unpleasant.
Yeah.
So when I refuse to do something, it's because I know what it's going to be and I do not want to do it again. So maybe that's the question. Has there been past experiences where she's felt a certain way? Have you asked that? But it sounds like refusing is based on a demand. So
yeah,
that's what I would try to ask her about it. Taking the pressure away too. And respecting her. She's an adult, it sounds like, as well. And if she doesn't want to do something, then okay.
I think that that's the biggest thing for parents in general with adult children.
Yeah.
My mom says this thing that I think is actually really great. So I'm one of 4.
She says a lot of great things.
She does. My Kyrie James is a quote factory for sure. But she always said whenever my siblings got married and started moving out, when it came to family events, I would get irritated sometimes that not everybody was required. And I remember kind of talking to my parents about like, hey, I would imagine as an adult, when your kids aren't forced to necessarily be around you, that's a tricky thing to navigate because of course you want them around and all of that. And my mom said something so great that I know her best friend gave her, but she was like, my point of view is that you are always invited. You are never expected. And it's that kind of, I think, security of just being like, hey, there's always an open door for you. We always want you a part of what we're doing, but we're never going to be like, well, so-and-so didn't come whenever there's a thing that you can't be at. So take that pressure off. And so I even think that in a scenario like this, it's like, take the pressure off it. Don't have the first time or the first kind of connecting points be the 3 of y'all in this really intense environment. Like go get active, go and do something, go walk around, go to a ball game, go something that is actually active where you're not having to just be right across from each other, gazing into eyes. Also, I want to give this to you, Mom. Don't PDA in front of your daughter. Like, that's not something she wants to see or be like overly lovey. I think it's a hard thing. I think PDA in general needs to relax, but also just like the showboating of it. And especially when it's a new relationship and your daughter might not have seen you with someone else or seen you with this person like this. And maybe your personality changes a little bit when you're around him. There could be so many different things. So just leave that door open and with zero pressure. That is the best advice I think we can give you. Okay, how about one more? Uno mas?
Sure.
One question more. Okay, this is a little bit along the lines of friendship stuff, but I think that it's something that we kind of have touched on, but someone specifically asked about this, so I'd like for us to address it. How do you handle friendships with people you grew up with and then they've stopped growing? So I don't want to say in a way of like one person's better than the other or if you've matured to this point and people aren't at your level. But there is, I think, a feeling that each person goes through in a relationship in their life at some point where you realize, oh, we're not maybe focused on the same things that we used to be that brought us into alignment with each other or connected us, or maybe life circumstances have changed and stalled you, or something has happened that has kind of made you to stop growing, stop asking questions about how you're treating people or about relationships or about life in general. You've kind of stopped at that point. And if you're a friend of that person, how do you navigate that?
That is hard. I've said that with every question. These are good questions, though.
Right.
That is an inevitable part of life. And I've experienced it a few times. It's a sensitive thing for people who aren't growing, and they can feel it and they know it as you're growing and seeing you progress. I think conversation is the most important thing. Being able to have the conversation with the person and not even like, hey, I noticed you're not growing, but like the questions you're asking. What are you guys spending time with? What are you motivated to do? What's your next goal? How can I help you? Should we do something together? Can we grow? Are you an artist and you're not doing what you love to do? Do a little bit of that. Sell it. I think it's encouraging the friend, especially in the beginning, the initial conversation, because you are going to grow, but it's like, talk about it a few times. And then if someone doesn't continue to grow or try to grow, then it's like you guys are just misaligned. But I think that's after some time.
Yeah, and I think that we're a bit quick to jump out of the boat with people when we see these kinds of things. Because a lot of times, if a lot of life has changed for you very quickly, or maybe there's been a lot of growth, or maybe you've just now found boundaries, or you've just kind of put on a new healthy aspect of yourself, you start to become very aware of others who are not.
Right.
Because where you're focused and what you're looking at, you just see is vastly different. And then it's like, oh, well, that's not even important to me. But when you bring the people in who you find to be stalled or not growing into where you're trying to go, and allow them to feel a part of that, or asking those hard questions about yourself, evaluating why certain things are happening in your life. When you bring somebody into your desire, why you have it, and why you're trying to live the way you are or ask the questions you are, and really give a person an opportunity to meet you in that, and then maybe you give another opportunity and there have been opportunities and they choose not to take those opportunities,
Right.
then there will be just natural separation.
Right. I think it is a natural thing.
It's not a forced thing. And I don't think most times it's even a conversation. It doesn't have to be, because the truth is, a lot of times if you're growing and other people are not, and you're actually seeing some distance, they're not seeing it because they're in their own world.
Right.
And that's probably one of the things that has contributed to their stalling.
Right.
So I think that we answered that, or I answered that to death.
I don't think so.
But I feel like that, yeah,
Sure,
there's
the audience thinks so, but I don't think so.
yeah, I get letters constantly. No, but I think that to not define a period of time of like this person has been stalled or they're not growing, I think to take a little bit of the pressure off of that and understand that there are like growth spurts too.
Yeah. And I think in talking about that, you can still love people. Like you can still
Absolutely.
love the person who's maybe not willing to grow. Not everybody's gonna grow, and there's not much we can do if they're not willing to help themselves. And you can still love them. Doesn't mean you have to be like, again, in your inner circle. As we talked with Courtney earlier, it's like relationships change. So that is now a relationship that is going to look different. And they can still be in your life. It's just gonna look different.
Right.
Because the alignment is not there. So that naturally happens.
Yeah, and when you take the pressure off too of like everybody needing to sit in like best friend, acquaintance, close friend, dear friend, like all of these different characterizations, and understanding that people will move in and out of different rings of different parts of your life. And when you take your hands off the wheel of needing to control that or needing to even put a finite and I'm moving on from this person because they've stopped growing, you'll realize you have a lot more open doors. You don't have as many closed off connections.
Right.
And if and when those people do decide to pull their head out and grow, then they can catch you along the way and you haven't burned any bridges. It's just a natural thing.
Right.
I feel like we actually gave some good advice today.
Yeah, I think so. That's our best series yet.
Yeah. I do want to tell everybody real quick, if you would like to send in a question, you can write me either on Instagram, just send me a message, or you can email me at cavcomments@gmail.com. You can also, and by saying you can also, would you please also leave this podcast a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you're listening. It just genuinely helps. And I feel like every week I'm out here on the street corner begging for it, and I'll continue to. Also, if you want to grab my book, I really loved, I don't think you've listened to Dr. Andy and my conversation yet, but
No, I don't think so.
about the book, and if you missed that episode, you should
last
go
week.
back. But then if you want to get the book, it's available. I think it's available everywhere. But I'm like, all of those plugging. I'm going to get better about plugging things at the top of the show. But for now, I just wanted to invite you in on the convo and to hopefully answer some questions. I know that these all felt maybe specific to someone else, but I'm hoping that in us sharing a bunch of them, that there was something that hit an area of your life and that it encouraged you, that it's left you more resourced than maybe when you started the ep. Nap, do you have anything that you would like to say, anything to leave our friends with?
If you want to send any money orders or offerings, you can send them to Natalie.
Yeah, what's your PayPal again?
Exactly.
She takes Zelle,
It's
PayPal,
Cash App, money's money.
Venmo, Cash App.
Exactly.
Yeah, she will take bonds too.
Yes, I do. I actually have right now in my car some savings bonds. Swear to you, I have two.
That's really hilarious.
My mom gave me this week. They're like $25 and $50 from literally like 15 to 20 years ago, and they're worth $25. They did not grow.
Wait, really? Mm-hmm. So my grandmother, I think when I was 4 or 5, gave me 5 savings bonds, and they did mature. I was actually yeah, but I was surprised. I mean, it's.
Do you remember how much?
I can.
A couple thou?
No, it wasn't even that. It was like 2 $100 bonds or something like that. And I think that it got up to maybe, it was like $350 for both of them, something like that.
For a piece of paper that's been sitting
Listen, that's what I'm saying. That was a fun little surprise.
Okay.
I said, thank you, Grandma.
Oh, okay. You had another 10 years on me because I think I got these when I was like 15, 16.
Well, it's not a contest.
Well, that's why mine are not worth 300. Mine were literally
No, you're right. Mine were legitimately 30-year bonds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to let them mature in order to get the.
So that's how savings work.
I don't know what savings is.
No, me neither. Who were you talking to? We got to go. Okay. Y'all be good now, okay?
See you soon.